Are you ready for me to run through the Warriors, who, since I did the first 5 teams of these like weeks in advance, I did double check to make sure I have everything this time.
Go for it.
So they drafted Jonathan Kuminga at number 7. They drafted Moses Moody at number 14. They signed Andre Iguodala to a 1-year deal at the minimum. Signed Otto Porter Jr. to a 1-year deal at the minimum. Signed Nemanja Bjelica to a 1-year deal at the minimum. Signed Chris Chiozza to a 2-way contract and obtained a $1.8 million trade exception for sending Eric Paschall to Utah. Their notable subtractions include obviously Eric Paschall, Alan Smiley-Geach, may his NBA career rest in peace, Kent Bazemore, Kent Bazemore, and Kelly Oubre Jr. I saw your grade on this. I peeked at it already. We diverge here a lot. I gave the Warriors minimums. I think that I think they made nice work of their minimums. Specifically, looking at Otto Porter Jr., whose offensive stock is just in the toilet, and if you can reboot that with his shooting. And then you can even look at, I don't view Iguodala or Bjelica as really any more than minimum players at this point. That being said, maybe Iguodala shows you some more ball handling with Golden State because he's so familiar with their system, you would think. Also, Bjelica, you have to believe he'll shoot better from 3. And so I think they got good runway, good bandwidth out of their minimums. I also am not penalizing, because I think some people are going to be mad about this grade. I'm not saying they should have traded for a star. The star market needs to develop. The only star that's realistically available right now seems like it's Ben Simmons. If you want them to trade for Ben Simmons, fine. It's a questionable fit. I think they could probably get it, but the defense would be terrifying with him and Draymond on the same team. I'm not penalizing them for not, trading their draft picks. I just don't think the right deal was out there. If they could have gotten Siakam and you told me that was on the table, then I would be livid as just someone looking at this. Here's my thing. I want to know how they looked last year as their offense died a slow, painful, eminently predictable death without Stephen Curry on the floor, saw that lack of secondary shot creation, and then decided, hey, we're not going to add a single secondary shot creator over the offseason. Don't tell me it's Iggy. I don't want to hear that Jordan Poole is the answer. They brought Isaiah Thomas in, or they're bringing Isaiah Thomas in to work out for them soon, if they haven't done that already. Okay, cool. You didn't use your mid level. I'm still going to ding you for not doing anything with Kelly Oubre Jr. How did you not flip him at the trade deadline for whatever you could get? How did you not try and wedge your way into the Charlotte talks with him? I know he signed a 2-year deal. Sign and trades need to be 3 years. Only the first year needs to be guaranteed. So there wasn't something more active they could have done there. And yes, you lost the Patty Mills sweepstakes. Patty Mills was low-key butt towards the end of last season. Maybe that was just a referendum on the Spurs roster around him, but he's never been like this typical A1 backup shot creator. He really spaces the floor, can do a lot more with the ball in his hands than plenty of other players on Golden State's roster. But if your excuse is we lost the Patty Mills sweepstakes, so we didn't spend the mini MLE, come the fuck on. That aggravates the hell out of me. And you have Stephen Curry here, you just said, what? Are we bidding farewell to his title window for a 3rd year? It's fine. I don't have a problem with the Jonathan Kuminga pick. I like the Moses Moody pick. Klay Thompson coming back. Maybe you put that under the notable additions of this. It's just not going to move the needle enough. Their offense was so bad without Stephen Curry. They didn't add a single secondary shot creator. And so for that, and they should consider this a gift, because I feel like I'm very much waiting how far their minimums went, and the fact that, and lest we forget, they did max out Stephen Curry in his extension. I'm really bad at listing extensions on this. I don't know what it is.
You hate extensions. We established that last time. You hate them. And Patty Mills and extensions, 2 things you hate the most.
The fact that you were able to lock down Stephen Curry, great, grand, wonderful. You're getting a D+ for me for the offseason.
Ooh.
Should have been more.
Okay.
You have one of the 10 best players, 10 to 15 best players of all time, maybe. Certainly one of the 5 best offensive players in NBA history. And you've just collectively decided, we're going to slow play whatever window this is. And there's no merit to it anymore. You have Klay Thompson coming back from 2 devastating injuries, 2 of the most devastating injuries that you could suffer in this sport, really, or that you're most likely to suffer in this sport. I don't get what feels like a real lack of urgency to optimize the window, the prime window, not someone who's on the downswing, but the prime window for one of the greatest players of all time. And it's, to me, it's disgraceful. Clearly, Stephen Curry, they have built in loyalty from Steph. They won 3 titles. I don't care. He is so good that he belongs on a team that's actually going to contend for something. I do hope they make me eat my words. You could talk me into a path where they win the West, but a lot of things are going wrong for 4 to 5 other teams in the conference if that happens. And so kudos to them for, I think, getting good mileage out of their minimums, despite, to me, not being a team that's going to be a real contender. That's all they did. That was great. And like the draft was fine. Again, I'm not, if you had told me that they could have gotten Pascal Siakam within reason, I'm not saying for everything and anything, but if there was a deal on the table and they just didn't do it, I might have given them an F. And so D plus, if you can talk me into a C minus C, you're a conversational wizard, because I'm just so fed up with the nonchalance with which they sort of carried themselves these past 2+ years at this point.
Well, so I gave them an A minus, which is a huge divergence, but in parentheses, I have a reasonable person would probably be in the B or B plus range. I'm not always the most reasonable about the Warriors. So what I'd say is, first of all, I think what happens a lot is, and I understand the argument that you have Stephen Curry, you owe it to him, or at least even not even so much that you owe it to him. It's logical to try to capitalize on, like you said, and I agree, one of the greatest offensive players of all time, really one of the greatest players of all time, full stop. Because he's 34. This is his age 34 season, and your time's running out. I think everyone sort of agrees on that. I think where the disconnect is how easy it is to do that, because you're trying to do that after the better part of a decade being the best team in the league and paying what it costs to be that, and inherently winding up with guys that are overpaid, and in Thompson's case, that broke down, that you can't move. And so your financial situation is what it is, and you don't have a lot of trade chips. Now, there's no argument against they did not add a secondary shot creator, and that was clearly their biggest problem. The on-off splits with Curry out of the game, they couldn't score. When he's in there, it's fine. They think Jordan Poole is that guy. And if you took the Jordan Poole that came back from the G League last year and was very good, I think that's a reasonable expectation to have for him. And in fact, I think the only reason that might not be the best course for your secondary shot creator is I think he's going to be good enough to play a lot with the first unit, especially with Thompson out. I think he's the answer there. I'm very high on Jordan Poole. I think he has the ability to be a pick and roll setup guy. I think he's really sharp. I think he's improved a ton. They think he's the guy. Now, you can disagree whether that's the correct assessment or not. And I also think so. And I'll just go kind of through the justification. That's not a justification for my grade, except insofar as it mitigates their failure to get a point guard, and why they're looking at the Isaiah Thomases of the world now. Not a great spot to be. I think their draft picks were better than decent. I think Kuminga, from what I watched in Summer League, I watched every minute. He's very flawed. He's very raw, but he has the athletic ability and the knowledge of how to use his frame, which is like 6'8", 230. He has as good of a sense of how to go through guys at the rim and how to create contact and succeed that way as 10-year vets, as like superstar 10-year vets. It is a skill that you don't teach, I don't think. I think he has it. Now, he had the ball in his hands a ton in Summer League, basically got to play a superstar role. I think he has superstar upside. I think there's a scenario where he's the best player in this draft class. It's like 5 or 10%, but it's there. And if you're taking that at number 7, I'm good. I'm good with that. Moody is the complete opposite. He's like a plug and play 3-and-D, take charges, make open threes. I think he's going to be able to play. Not primary shot creators. Again, I think they're minimum guys. Iguodala will be better here than he was in Miami. He's familiar with the system. He's not a primary shot creator, but he will keep the ball moving better than any. Like Kelly Oubre is the anti Andre Iguodala. Kelly Oubre has never thought more than one step ahead on a possession ever, and I think he sometimes didn't think that step last year, like with being in the same place as other players. Iguodala is the opposite. He will move the ball, get guys in the right places, tell them when they're in the wrong places. That's a value add. I think Bielitsa is a similar guy. He's going to have to play center. He's going to only play against backups. He can shoot and he can pass too. There's not a break you down point guard. Totally fair. Patty Mills even wouldn't have been that guy. I think though, of their and Otto Porter, who knows if he plays 40 games, like that's a win. But he does fill a need. He can make open threes, and he's the right size for how they like to play on the wing. I think based on the options they had, like Patty Mills didn't want to go there. They didn't find anyone who made sense, or plus with the tax implications, to spend the mini MLE on. They still have that. You can still use that. I just think, like, look, if you're going to criticize them and say, don't tell me that billionaire owners need to save money, who's spending more than Joe Lacob? Nobody. So, like, there's at some point it becomes unreasonable to just say, we'll take a pile of dog shit and pay it 5.9 million and $50 million in tax penalties just because we have a roster spot. I think you might as well wait and see if there's a buyout guy or there's something you can use that on, because it doesn't go away. You can still keep it. So based on the options they had, I thought they hit the draft. Both of their first rounders were like optimal. I don't think they could have done any better with either of those two picks. I don't think there was a trade that made sense. And I think their minimum salary slots, they fit. So a lot, as I'm talking about this, hinges on Jordan Poole and my belief in him and your lack of it. But I think they had a really good offseason. And I'm not persuaded by they should have, or, have to have been all along finding ways to swing a big trade to get Curry another star, just because I just don't think there is one. So I'm not going to hold that against them for their offseason.
I don't hold that against him either, as I already said. The other thing is, I'm not low on Jordan Poole. He played really well down the stretch of last year and really flashed some nifty finishing around the rim, has shown that he can hit some off the dribble jumpers. The Golden State Warriors offense ranked in the 6th percentile when he played without Stephen Curry last year. What else did they do to this roster that's going to ensure those minutes can change?
Yeah, they just have to hope that he's the best version of himself, because I'm sure that sample's not very big and it doesn't prices in how terrible he was before he went down. I think they hope that he's better, that Iguodala plays a significant role and matters. I think they hope that they hit on one of these, 15th man point guard spots. I think they hope that when Klay Thompson comes back, he just makes life easier on everyone with the spacing. 100%.
You can a lot of flimsy hopes that age 84 Andre Iguodala is going to be this big of a lift, that Klay Thompson is going to come back from 2 devastating injuries and be 80% of Klay Thompson, like any time before the playoffs, to help those minutes out, assuming they even allow him to play without Steph. Because I don't know. I don't think they should have. The star market wasn't out there. So again, I want to make it clear I'm not hitting them for that. I would have, and maybe some people are going to disagree, but Bryn Forbes led the NBA in points per touch last year, signed with the Spurs for cheaper than the Warriors could have offered. Even Sterling Brown signed a 2-year deal with Dallas for cheaper than the Warriors could offer. He played some point guard with Houston last year. Probably would rather have Jordan Poole as a shot creator, but just another option there. George Hill signed for less than that. Didn't have a great time in Philly, but if you're such a believer in what you can extract out of age 109 Andre Iguodala, why can't you believe a little bit in George Hill, who I guess was good? Last time he was good was with Milwaukee. So I understand the options were wearing thin, but there wasn't, at least publicly, and not even just like somewhat quietly or subtly, didn't seem like there was enough aggression from their part this offseason. And I do think their draft was solid. I think that their draft was, I don't think it was spectacular. There were, I think you could have gone in different directions at either spot. I definitely think Moses Moody was the pick at number 14 for them. That just makes so much sense. This was just a very uninspiring offseason for me. And maybe Klay comes back and is really good. Maybe Andre Iguodala's return really helps you out. Maybe Jordan Poole pops. Maybe James Wiseman comes back from injury after not playing in summer league, after being probably limited in training camp, after not having an entire offseason to work out, and he's somehow better. Maybe Jonathan Kuminga is able to get rotation minutes on a good team. Maybe Moses Moody really is plug and play as a rookie on what wants to be a good team. That's just too many fucking maybes for a team that has Steph Curry right now. And the other question I have here is they didn't do anything to sort of clarify what is Moody going to do this season, or what is Kuminga? Like, how much are they going to rely on those guys? How much are they going to rely on Wiseman? It seems fait complete that he'll be coming off the bench and that Looney will start. And so then who are you relying on to help tee up Wiseman? And you think Wiseman's going to start?
No, I think Wiseman's going to start. I think, and at least he's going to have the opportunity, and he may be like a ceremonial guy. He may start and play 18 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. I think the answer to all those young guys is they'll let them, it'll be apparent whether they can play or not. And I think the veteran guys that they brought in, I think the Warriors would prefer that Kuminga or Moody demand, with their play 15, 20 minutes a night, or Wiseman the same, certainly probably more so for Wiseman because this is his second year. But I think they're okay with maybe Kuminga spends time in the G League. That's totally on the table.
Awesome. Why weren't you more aggressive to add players that aren't going to spend time in the G League over the offseason then? Would be my just
I think, because ownership is completely cool with this being like a bridge. We want our bridge guys. That's the messaging now. And it might be just because we're clearly not going to contend, so we might as well start talking up this other situation we have as if we intended it all along, whether that's true or not. I don't know. I think, where do you think? So I'd put it this way. I think last year with Curry on the floor, they had like a top 10 level offense. With him off, it was just like 29th, barely better, equivalent. I think they'll be top 5 with Curry on the floor offensively, which is like maybe the most conservative thing you could say about someone like him, because there's a little more talent. And I think they can be like a mid-pack offense, like 15, the 13 to 18 range in the league when he doesn't play. And I think that'll be enough, because their defense will be very good, because they were a great defense last year, and I don't see a reason for that to change with the personnel that they brought on. So I think the offense will be improved enough, but this is one of those situations where, as you said, if this goes bad because they just never score with Curry off the floor, this will be so foreseeable. It will be like, yeah, of course that's what happened. In hindsight, because this is the fair avenue of criticism, which you brought up. So I guess I'm just more generally optimistic about the pieces they've got, making the offense better enough, I guess, to get that, to sort of address the biggest weakness the team had.
Right. And I guess what's also tough for me to sort of, and we're definitely going to have to move on from the Warriors here at some point, but so much of just the upswing, and the Warriors were in the 74th percentile of offensive efficiency with Steph last year, 3rd percentile without him. They were in the 83rd percentile of offensive efficiency with Draymond and Steph on the court, but they did their most of their damage without James Wiseman on the court. When Wiseman played with Poole and Curry, the Warriors were in the 9th percentile of offensive efficiency. To be in the 9th percentile of offensive efficiency in lineups where Steph and Curry was on the floor, that's actually impressively bad. So
it was tough. James Wiseman did not know how to play NBA basketball.
My question would be, what happens if now all of a sudden he's back? Why should we bank on him being better after the injury?
You're just betting on talent. You're betting on talent, because that's all it is, and just a teenager getting better. That's all it is. Because there was no evidence on the floor last year that was going to happen.